recording. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Ritter. I'm the founder and CEO of the Center for Team Excellence. It's been over a decade since the publication of Team Clock, and we've learned lots of lessons along the way, but no one could have prepared us for the challenges that we're facing now. In many ways we've never experienced, leaders and teams are adapting to change with no playbook. From essential businesses having to ramp up to emergency level responsiveness to all the industries required to shut down with little warning or preparation, everyone has moved to a problem-solving mode under extreme pressure. And our Team Clock consultants, 4 of whom you're going to meet today at the Center for Team Excellence, are seeing both the best and the worst in our leaders. So on one hand, leaders across the spectrum of industries have stepped up in remarkable ways. We're witnessing impressive examples of sacrifice and resilience, and collaboration and innovation. And on the other hand, we're assisting leaders who are now experiencing the consequences of lack of role clarity, employee disengagement, breakdowns in accountability, fear of innovation, and unfortunately being paralyzed in their efforts to manage significant change and loss. So during times like these, there are predictable reasons that teams struggle, and there's actually a recipe for what works. So on that note, I am excited to introduce our Team Clock consultants from all over the nation here. So hailing from Chicago, Wes Becton, and also from Chicago, Michelle Sherbun. Monica Kerber hailing from the Denver area in Colorado, and Jeremy Schreifels hailing from the Minneapolis area up in Minnesota. So I invite the 4 of you to the conversation, and they, along with our entire team of consultants, have been caring for the people who take care of the people, and they're seeing what works and what doesn't work. So I'm going to throw out the first question. So, since the introduction of the Team Clock method in 2009, we've never experienced more powerful examples of people navigating significant change. These are, to say the least, unprecedented times. So what are you seeing out there?
Steve, I work primarily with the nonprofit sector. Their boards often represent the corporate sector, so there's that intersection there, but a lot of my work is with nonprofits. The whole sector is really based on optimism and it's hope. And for them and the clients they serve, or the arts that they create, or whatever those missions are, resiliency is really at the heart of that. Hope and resiliency are tied together dramatically. What I've been hearing from my clients is in the work that they do, whether they're serving as fundraisers or direct program staff, there's usually an element of stepping back and not being basically in the same box with our clients, with our participants, the people we're lucky enough to serve. With everything that's been going on today now, they're in the box with them. They're feeling the same things they're feeling. They're struggling with the same issues that everyone else is doing, and they're having a very hard time pulling themselves back from that and being of tremendous resource to the people who need them most. So a lot of the work I've been doing is like, how do you bring your teams together? How do you reframe the issues in a way that let you tap into your own resilience, which is core to the work that you do? And then how do you apply it? And how do you help each other, hold each other accountable to doing that and catching each other when you kind of miss the step? They're finding that support is really helping the teams get stronger. Professionals are being a little more vulnerable with each other than they've ever been in the past. And with that's coming greater trust. So it's while we've got all of this to deal with, the opportunities here are huge in building teams, building in innovation in organizations. How do we think differently? How do we work differently in a way that we may not have ever had a chance to do when life was normal?
Thank you.
So.
How about others? What are you seeing?
Michelle, I would just piggyback the note that I had about this question was about the leaders that I'm working with, seeing them being vulnerable and leaning into it really in a way that I've never experienced some of my clients, and being okay with the fact that they feel anxious and they feel frustrated, and allowing their teams to also express that. But then the ones that are really getting on the other side of that quicker than others are the ones that are rising through that.
Mhm.
And really being comfortable with the uncomfortable and the unknown, but saying to them, you know, we don't know what's next, but we're going to move through that. And so I think that creativity, the innovation piece of it, has been really exciting to see. And I also think it's so interesting that we've always had this theory around distancing, right, in the team clock methodology. And the minute the phrase social distancing really started to take a dominant space in our lives, I just thought, oh, we are all going to experience this cycle in our homes, with our families, in our work. And so that's been the piece, I think, that's been really unique. The other thing that I'm seeing that is causing, I think, a level of stress or some uniqueness in how people are navigating is they're having to decrease their work, their staff. And so then leaders are absorbing other roles and responsibilities that they're maybe used to managing, but not having to do. And that I see as adding an extra layer of just stress for them.
Yeah, thanks for raising the distancing point. You know, the word that we've used in the team clock methodology around distancing is about that time when things are changing, that you step back and get perspective and then find a way to step back in. And that, besides creating safety between people, it has also had the effect of making people really rethink the way they're moving through the world these days, which is part of the cycle of any team. So Wes, Jeremy, what's going on in your world?
Yeah, so I'm seeing a couple of clear distinctions with my clients, and then with some of the boards that I'm involved in. The organizations that had a top-down, very authoritarian, controlling approach towards their teams, they're struggling, versus the ones that had a different approach, where they had a more decentralized, a more collaborative approach. Because when everybody's not in front of you, it's not as controlling, and some people are definitely struggling with that, and that's where coaching absolutely comes in, and helping them understand how they're showing up and how that's influencing their teams. You know, just a couple of quick examples. You know, a bank that I'm involved in on the board, a lot of bankers weren't answering calls the first couple of weeks because they weren't sure what to do. They were afraid. This particular bank went out of their way to call their clients, not just their key clients, but a lot of small business owners that were afraid, and they were spending time reassuring them. And then when the Payroll Protection Act came out, they actually found a vendor that could put information on their website to make that process simplified for them. So again, that's an example of that. I think thinking that doesn't exist when you have that top-down approach. So I think we'll get into that a little bit more later, but I think generally I'm seeing those two distinctions.
Yeah, that's a great example. Jeremy, what's going on up in Minneapolis?
I actually have one really good example, and this kind of came from Monica, your kind of perspective in terms of I'm seeing people wanting to look at this not as like a snow day situation. Like, this isn't just something that we're going to take a couple of days off of work and then now we're going to move forward. The clients that I've been working with, they're really still thinking about this as an opportunity, a growth opportunity to be innovative in internalizing how are they structuring what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And some of them, yes, have had made tough decisions about laying some people off, but have been used in innovative approaches in how can we really still support those individuals within that agency to be making sure they don't lose health insurance and they can still maintain a paycheck for a little while. And how can we be creative inside of that? Because in this particular organization, they're dealing in the early childhood world, which is certainly a space as a nonprofit and not a lot of funds. So keeping those people working was essential. So they did a really good job of pushing that forward and making sure that they were taking care of their staff and employees. But then because they can look internally, they've been able to say, what are some things that we could really be doing virtually that we're just taking up space in an office for currently? So they're reevaluating and looking forward, thinking 6, 10, 12 months down the road, and planning for that now because they have extra resources and some of those folks have extra time. So they're putting those things in place. They're just using this as an opportunity to regroup and push forward more so than, oh, we just need to take this break.
It raises such an important point. Thank you, Jeremy. You know, we all would want to be investing ourselves in what's going to happen next, but the future remains unclear right now. And most of us, you know, I've been listening to some healthcare providers saying that the ability to cope with prolonged stress, you know, in humans has about a month in it, and that's about how long we've all been sheltered in place. And so a lot of people's energy and coping skill is depleted right now.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm, you know, whether it's you or your clients, you know, what are teams doing to get refueled and refocused and kind of reinvested at a time when the future remains as unclear as it is right now? Wes, I want to have you lead this one off because I know that, you know, your energy leadership is a focus of your coaching. And I'm guessing that this is a conversation you're having frequently with people.
Oh, literally every day. And the way I've been explaining it is that for the first 2 weeks, people were just afraid and they weren't sure what to do. And then as the curve starts to go up, people are starting to say, wait a minute, we've got work to do. We need to be able to think through some of these decisions, and they can't do that when they're afraid. And as you know, core energy leadership is all about understanding how you show up and the type of energy that you want to bring to any given situation. So I've seen a few different things out there. Obviously, the bank example that I brought up was an interesting one, but I'm also involved in a college that you're also involved in Steve, and the admissions department. I've been the chair of the enrollment management committee for a few years. The admissions department has a challenge. There's fewer students graduating from high school in Illinois, which means there's fewer students to recruit, and about half of those students that do graduate, they end up going out of state. And so before the pandemic even happened, there were some challenges. But you take that and you multiply it by X, because we know that if a student comes on campus, the likelihood of them attending increases dramatically. The students can't come on campus. So what do you do? And the mindset could be, hey, we're going to just throw the towel in and there's nothing we can do. Or they could have, as they did, they had a different mindset. And ironically, it wasn't the leader that necessarily came up with this strategy, but he created an environment where those ideas could bubble up to the top, and he gave his team the authority to be able to run with some ideas. And what's going to happen through that is that there's some things that are happening now that they're going to continue doing after the pandemic is over. So if we look at, you know, what teams are doing right now, I think it's understanding that people are afraid. I think it's leaders being vulnerable with their teams and letting them know that it's okay to be afraid, but then helping them understand the bigger picture and giving them something else to focus on. And I think as leaders, the ones that I coach, when they can do that, it's almost like the weight of the world leaves their shoulders, and it gives their team some freedom to operate.
Excellent.
It's helping them reframe. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
No, it's great. It's helping them reframe. What are your other options here? Rather than I can only see it this one way. How do I change my thoughts around this, which then makes me feel differently, then I behave differently, and the outcome's different. So how do I coach my teams around that and reframe, and we do that together? It creates a bond and solutions that can be very sustainable.
Good point.
The word I keep using is reimagine. So
Yep.
when I'm with my leaders and they're like just afraid or anxious and not quite sure, there's this new scenario, we're going to do this differently than we ever have before. I just say to them, you know, just reimagine it. If you had to do it differently, but still as effectively as you've ever done it before, what would that look like? And so really just opening up the possibilities. And I agree, Wes and Michelle, sometimes those key leaders, they're too close to it or too afraid of maybe going in the wrong direction. But when you can get vulnerable and invite collaboration, there's other perspectives from team members where, you don't always have to have all the answers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments on how we refuel, refocus, stay reinvested? I guess I'm thinking about the fact that we're all sheltered at home. We're all quarantined, and for some people maybe that's normal anyway. For some people, this is a new way to think about the way we stay in touch with each other. I think Wes, your example of the college president finding different ways of thinking about things. As an adjunct faculty member of that college, I get communicated with every day.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I'm not on the campus, I feel like I'm a part of what's going on, and I feel fully informed as well. So, how are teammates staying in touch with each other? How are people finding ways to collaborate when we're all sheltered at home?
Well, I think I'll step in on this one, partly because about a year and a half ago, I created basically my existence around this idea of collaboration, of building teams in different pockets of the United States to create music in this space. And so I've been able to create and use these teams and allow some of them to work. As you know, the gigging musician is at this point no longer, other than what some folks might see on Facebook Lives or some of those kinds of things happening. But the gigging industry is literally off. No bars, no restaurants, no venues, no concert spaces. And so I've really taken it kind of personally as my goal and my mission as a part of what I was already doing to employ as many of those people as I can. One of those things we've done recently is with a Team Clock client of creating a corporate song for them. And then I can hire people I have folks from Nashville, people from Chicago, people from Minneapolis and surrounding areas coming together in their virtual spaces to create this song that will ultimately become the voice and a space of that client. Wow. And the comments that I'm constantly getting with the musicians that I work with is, it just feels good to be part of something. And that collaborative piece, and as also a live performance musician, I've had some opportunities to step into some live stream in the worship center area of performance. And I can't tell you that that's probably my favorite part of the week. Awesome. Is because I know that I get to be, even if it's 6 feet apart from 5 other people, to create music for that hour or those, whatever it can be. It's my favorite time of the week and my family is forever thankful for that as well.
They get to get a break from you for a couple hours, and then a congregation of people who can't come into the church get to share that music as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So cool.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well, to your point, Steve, the kind of the shelter at home, working from home, kids homeschooling from home. For me, I have been working from home for the last 10 years. This is my home office. I do virtual trainings and workshops. I've been using Zoom as my technology for the last 2 years. And so for me, nothing really felt different, even having my kids here, because they're here during holiday break and summer breaks. But I had this moment about 2 weeks ago where I thought, oh, but remember 10 years ago, how hard it was to navigate into that new space and what that felt like. And I took a step back and I thought, you know what? I'm going to just start to share some best practices for people. And I've been pushing it out on my social media platforms, on LinkedIn and Facebook. And here's a tip for working at home. Here's a tip for how to, navigate your day, because it is so challenging at times when, literally kids went to school on a Thursday and they haven't gone back. And we just were told, you know, go get your stuff from your office because it's closing. And so I think it just feels like everyone kind of fell off a cliff. But technology has really found its way, I think, in a really special way, to bring people closer together. And that's what I'm seeing everybody use, whatever works: Zoom, House Party, Marco Polo, FaceTime, Google Hangout, whatever it is. That's what I'm seeing teams use, and teams of all sorts, families. We just had a family birthday party. There's 10 grandkids in our family, and so we just did a Zoom, and we were able to celebrate my nephew's birthday for it was the shortest family birthday party we ever had, but it was highly effective.
Yeah, I think Michelle's probably going to want to comment on this as well, but you know, I think understanding our own energy and how we show up is important. I've been able to, you know, be a little vulnerable with my clients and just tell me, look, this is what's going on with me. So we have 3 adult children and a son-in-law and a granddaughter, and all of them have decided to shelter in place here in Elmhurst, Illinois. And you know, it makes me feel good as a parent that A, they seem to like each other, and B, they may even like us, so we didn't completely screw them up. But you know, about a week and a half into it's like I've got to have a client call, and there's no quiet space in the house. You have a nice size house, but you know, I felt myself getting a little irritated, a little snarky, a little, you know, just that kind of guy showing up. And I'm like, wait a minute, what a blessing this is that everyone is home and they like us and they're getting along, and we're all here together. There's something special that's happening. You're creating some memories that are going to last forever. And then once I adopted that mindset, it kind of permeated throughout everything else that I was doing. It's just not a tenseness, not a, what we call a catabolic response. It was more of a, wow, what a great opportunity this is. And then when you share it with clients, what happens is they're like, yeah, I was kind of feeling the same way about working with them. I got kids, I got that. And you know, when you're vulnerable and you're open up and you talk about that stuff, I think it helps. I think, and Steve, you may want to comment on that as the counselor, but I think there's something to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I have a corporate client, a manufacturer that has been struggling team-wise. And one of the advantages that came out of COVID-19 is the CEO has been doing a lot of Zoom calls, really, and now more people are involved and they're communicating better across the entire company. And so I was able to get her excited about the idea of doing a Zoom planning session this last week, where we expanded beyond their executive team down into some of the middle management and the talent that's coming up. We did an advanced survey, identified issues. They came in and were talking very openly, which was absolutely fascinating. We identified 3 projects they need to work on. We assigned 3 teams to work on those projects. And they're all moving forward with it. And there's the energy. And I think I agree with you, Wes. We have to project our energy and say, this is possible. We can do this. You can do this. Why not? And I don't know, it's really exciting when you see teams coming together and creating something brand new and doing it and walking out just completely energized. It's just
This is what happens, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so once you kind of step distance and step back and get perspective and re-energize and refuel and step back in, what happens is you start looking at things in different ways. And you know, the very refueling that you've done has energized the ability to be more innovative maybe than you were ever before, because now new problems need new solutions and you can't count on the ways of, you know, done things in the past. So what are you seeing out there in terms of creativity and innovation?
Yeah, so to the point that technology has taken kind of this really special place in our world, I'm seeing the innovation around virtual happy hours, the, you know, birthday parties and celebrations that people are doing. I've seen Facebook groups get created. Clients have invited me into them where they're creating private groups, And there's just lots of dialogue happening, whether it's funny things to keep their humor going, motivation, idea sharing, pitching out questions, and then people sharing best practices. And I also see people talking on the phone more to each other versus emailing. And we live in a world where email reigns supreme. And there's something, like Wes had mentioned, about hearing someone's voice. I do a lot of consulting in the financial services industry, and advisors are picking up the phone and calling their clients and letting them know that things are going to be okay. In a world where typically you would just be emailing back and forth, or maybe handing that off to a team member or an assistant. And so I see the innovation really being that human connection and finding a way to look at each other eyeball to eyeball through technology, and to host meetings with your teams because you're wanting to make the far feel close, and hearing one another's voice, whether that be through the telephone or virtually like this. And so I just really see the innovation being connecting back at the human level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, these are times that weigh heavily on all of us on a very personal level. And, you are all people who take care of the people who take care of the people. And so who takes care of you? We're good at talking about how we're helping our clients. And many of our clients are there to help other people. One of my clients was working 16-hour shifts building that makeshift medical center at McCormick Place in Chicago that needed to have 500 beds up by Friday to be able to absorb that. So how's he doing, right? And what does that do to me to have to devote myself to his care, right? And so in many ways, the five of us and our other 20 consultants in the Team Clock Institute are caring for others. How are you guys taking care of yourselves?
Well, fortunately, I'm married to a really cool guy who keeps me laughing every day. That's his job. And so that helps immensely. But I also find colleagues to talk with and friends, reaching out, doing more outreach myself, just with people that I haven't spoken with for a while. That why haven't I connected? It's refocusing me too on what's most important in my life. And so I've made a concerted effort to do that. And then I was on my phone with on the phone with my daughter the other day, and we're planning that once the weather gets nice, we're going to meet at each other's homes and start gardening. We'll just have our end of the yard, but we'll at least be able to see each other, and we'll get some physical exercise. So the creativity we're asking our clients to apply, we need to do that for ourselves too, to keep ourselves energized.
Exactly.
I think for me, the one biggest thing that actually the last 4 weeks has probably been the most amazing family time that we've had in probably years. I have 2 teenage children that are very device driven typically, and we've played more family games and been able to have great conversations about just being human beings. And so for me, even though that's part of me taking care of them, that's also for me, that's them giving back. And kind of refueling that what we're doing as parents, as some of you with older children probably have already been through. No, it's been really great. And then for me, of course, as a musician, my music is my outlet. And so as many people as I've been able to collaborate with, I've never been more busy. And as a musician, that's never really work. It's just all play.
Jeremy, we also have played more family games in the last month than probably in a total year. And I have a 10 and a 12-year-old. And so they're still at the age where they like us and think we're cool. So it's been, it's been really fun. And Michelle, I agree. I think the priorities have shifted, and you just realize how really busy you are. But I mean, there are some of those things that I think we've missed, but I've really loved having the family dinners every night because the evening activities have, stopped for the time being. And so I've really loved that. I'm highly extroverted, so this has been very hard for me. But I've been using technology to keep in touch. And I too, Michelle, have been reaching out and having more conversations with people. And I think it's just because I feel like I have the time to, it's not a quick text to my mom or my dad. It's a phone call and having a cup of coffee, over the phone with them. So it's been good. I do think, though, the one thing that's helped me, two things, is to maintain some level of a routine in my day-to-day. And then we have been in the middle of a major remodel here at my house. So I've been painting and doing all kinds of things. So that's kept me very busy. But it's the family time, I think, that I've enjoyed the most.
Nice.
I love all the stuff about family, and I think that's definitely one of the things that's coming out loud and clear, that family is important, and being able to spend that time together is precious. My dog's getting a lot of exercise. He's getting a lot of exercise and having a lot of fun. And I started listening to some books on tape, and this is stuff I never would have touched. We've got all the great books on my bookshelf upstairs, but listening to the great books like Homer, Virgil, Dante's Inferno, all those things that I should have read in high school and college, I didn't. But listening to them on tape as I'm walking, it's been pretty powerful. But then also turning it off every once in a while and just being still and being in my own thoughts, I think that's helpful. And then obviously, the spiritual side, spending some time in prayer, that's been helpful too. I mean, part of it is being present and not thinking about the past and not worrying about the future, but just being present and living in the moment, which is something I try to work with my clients.
Thanks. Yeah, I thought that maybe for some of us, this situation was going to result in having extra free time. And interestingly, I think my phone's ringing more than it's ever rung. I think, the world's in need of people that heal others in many ways. And so maybe the best thing we can do to scale the way we take care of others is take good care of ourselves. I have found myself in conversations with a host of people who I should have called 6 months ago or a year ago, who are living in a different part of the country, and I haven't taken the time to catch up. Well, I've had all those catch-ups now, and I continue to do that. The fact that there's guitars hanging in my background is not for decoration. I take music very seriously, and I think, like Jeremy, it's a way of staying well. And then for Jeremy and I, we are collaborating on a corporate song for a Team Clock client that has given you and I, Jeremy, a chance to collaborate multiple times a week for the past month. And so sometimes, your work and your play get overlapped in wonderful ways. So, we're all in this together, folks. The challenge is as universal as it has ever been. Life as we know it is dramatically different for an undetermined period of time. The Team Clock model teaches us that everything happens in cycles. So this too will pass to some other new normal eventually. And I'm grateful that we have the four of you to guide us forward to whatever that new normal is going to be. And so any final thoughts that you want to share that our viewers might appreciate as they try to meet their challenges as they move their team forwards?
I've been saying three things through all of this. And I say to people, find the humor, keep perspective, and manage your energy. And so in finding the humor, I keep saying to people, look, we're just trapped in the spring break that never happened and the summer break that is going to feel like it never ends. And people, they laugh at that, like, it's okay. And then I said, but keep perspective, because we're going to get on the other side of this. And then really the only thing, and Wes, you probably can speak to this too, the only thing we can really control in all of this is our own energy. So how do we show up, choose to show up at your best? Because all of the other stuff it's totally out of your control.
Yeah, I agree with you, Monica. I've been talking with people a lot, work on what you can control. And so much of this is out of our control. So focus on and be kind to yourself.
That's when probably my biggest theme is just telling people, take care of yourself. Because unless that bucket's full, it's hard to just keep spilling it out.
Yeah.
Choose how you show up. That's the buzzword.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Wes and Michelle and Monica and Jeremy, for the generosity of your time and the generosity of your insight and the generosity of the guidance that you share. So everyone should feel free to reach out to any of us. We're easy to find at teamclock.com, and we will continue this conversation. So stay in touch, be well, take care of yourselves, take care of your clients. Thanks all.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.